There is a silent epidemic destroying more lives than failure ever could. It isn't poverty, it isn't bad luck, it isn't lack of talent. It is caring too much. Caring too much about what people think. Caring too much about being accepted. Caring too much about proving yourself. Caring too much about things you were never meant to control. And here's the irony. The more desperately you seek approval, the less respect you receive. The harder you try to please everyone, the more you lose yourself. The more you fear criticism, the smaller your life becomes. The Stoics understood something that modern society seems to have forgotten. Freedom begins the moment you stop handing your peace over to other people. Marcus Aurelius ruled one of the greatest empires in history. Every decision he made was judged, every mistake was magnified, every success was questioned. Yet he reminded himself daily that another person's opinion had no authority over his character unless he allowed it. Imagine living with that kind of freedom. Imagine walking into a room without wondering whether people like you. Imagine posting your work without checking every comment. Imagine making decisions based on your values instead of other people's expectations. That is real confidence. Not the confidence that comes from applause, but the confidence that survives even when no one is clapping. Most people spend their lives trapped inside invisible prisons. The prison of comparison, the prison of validation, the prison of perfection. These prisons have no walls, only beliefs. Beliefs like, if they don't approve of me, I'm not good enough. If I fail, people will laugh at me. If I disappoint someone, I'm a bad person. If everyone doesn't like me, something must be wrong with me. These thoughts slowly become chains. Before long, you stop speaking honestly. You stop chasing your dreams. You stop taking risks. You stop becoming who you were meant to be, not because life stopped you, but because fear did. Epictetus once said, if you seek tranquility, do less, or more accurately, do what's essential. Most people misunderstand this. They think doing less means becoming lazy. That isn't what he meant. He meant stop wasting your emotional energy on things that don't deserve it. Stop replaying conversations from 3 days ago. Stop wondering why someone didn't text back. Stop losing sleep over criticism from people who don't even know you. Stop trying to convince everyone to understand your journey. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every insult deserves your response. Not every battle deserves your energy. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Every time you obsess over someone else's opinion, you're spending something you'll never get back. Time, energy, peace. Think about how much of your life has already been consumed by worrying about what others might think. How many opportunities have you avoided because you feared embarrassment? How many ideas have remained inside your head because you were afraid people would judge you? How many times have you stayed silent when you should have spoken? How many dreams have died before they were even born? Not because you lacked ability, because you cared too much. The Stoics believed that the opinions of others belong to them, not to you. You don't own another person's thoughts. You cannot control their judgments. And trying to control what you cannot control is the fastest path to anxiety. Imagine trying to stop the wind with your hands. Imagine trying to command the rain to fall somewhere else. It sounds ridiculous. Yet every day, people try to control something even more unpredictable. Human opinion. Some people will admire you, some will misunderstand you, some will envy you, some will criticize you no matter what you do. That has always been true, and it always will be. The question isn't whether people will judge you. They will. The question is whether you'll allow their judgment to become your identity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been." This isn't about pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about recognizing that much of our suffering comes from the meaning we attach to events. Someone insults you. Did they actually reduce your worth? Or did they simply speak words? Someone ignores you. Did your value disappear? Or did your mind create a story around it? Someone doubts your potential. Does their doubt determine your future? Or only your response does? The Stoics remind us that our peace isn't stolen, it's surrendered. Every single day we hand pieces of ourselves away. To strangers on the internet, to co-workers, to family members, to critics, to people whose opinions will mean absolutely nothing 10 years from now. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with rocks. Each rock represents an opinion you're trying to satisfy. Eventually, the weight becomes unbearable. The Stoic solution isn't to become heartless, it's to finally put the backpack down, because life becomes infinitely lighter when you stop carrying burdens that were never yours. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. Stoicism isn't about not caring, it's about caring wisely. Care about your character, care about your discipline, care about your integrity, care about becoming stronger than you were yesterday. but stop caring about things that cannot make you better. Because every ounce of energy you waste chasing approval is energy you could have invested in becoming extraordinary. And perhaps that's the greatest tragedy. Most people never discover their true potential. Not because they weren't capable, but because they spent their entire lives performing for an audience that was never truly watching. So today, ask yourself one simple question. What would I do differently if I stopped caring about what everyone else thought? The answer to that question may be the beginning of your freedom. There is a dangerous illusion that keeps millions of people trapped. The illusion that one day, if you work hard enough, dress well enough, speak carefully enough, become successful enough, then everyone will finally approve of you. But that day never comes. Because approval is one of the few things in life that can never be fully earned. No matter who you are, someone will dislike you. No matter how kind you are, someone will misunderstand your intentions. No matter how successful you become, someone will call you lucky. And no matter how much you sacrifice for others, someone will still believe it wasn't enough. This isn't pessimism, it's reality. The Stoics accepted this truth long before social media made validation an addiction. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, had critics. Seneca, one of history's greatest philosophers, had enemies. Epictetus, whose wisdom continues to inspire millions today, was once mocked because he was born a slave. If people criticized them, why do you believe you'll somehow escape criticism? The answer is simple: you won't. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll experience a level of freedom most people never discover. Think about your average day. How many decisions are actually yours? Do you wear certain clothes because you genuinely like them, or because you hope others will admire them? Do you post online because you want to express yourself, or because you're waiting for strangers to validate you with likes and comments? Do you stay silent in meetings because you're afraid of sounding foolish? Do you hide your dreams because someone might laugh? Most people don't realize it, but they are constantly asking invisible questions. What will they think? Will they like me? Will they approve? Will they accept me? Little by little, they stop living their own lives. Instead, they begin performing. Every conversation becomes an audition. Every achievement becomes a plea for recognition. Every decision becomes a negotiation with other people's expectations. The tragedy is that even when approval finally arrives, it never lasts. Someone compliments you today. Tomorrow you're anxious about losing that image. Someone praises your success. Now you feel pressured to achieve even more. Someone calls you attractive. Now you're terrified of aging. Approval creates a hunger that can never be fully satisfied. The Stoics understood something extraordinary. The person who needs the least approval is often the strongest person in the room. Not because they believe they're better than others, but because they know their worth isn't determined by applause. Imagine a mighty oak tree standing in the middle of a storm. The wind blows from every direction, branches shake, leaves fall, rain pours endlessly, but the roots remain firm. The tree doesn't bend to please the wind, it simply stands where it was planted. Your character should be like that tree. Grounded, stable, unmoved by passing opinions. Unfortunately, many people are more like leaves than trees. Every compliment lifts them, every criticism crushes them. Their emotions rise and fall based entirely on how other people react. One negative comment ruins an entire day. One rejection makes them question their value. One disagreement feels like a personal attack. They have unknowingly handed the steering wheel of their emotions to strangers. The Stoics refused to live that way. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." At first glance, those words seem harsh, but hidden within them is one of the greatest secrets to personal freedom. Growth often looks foolish. Starting a business looks foolish. Changing careers looks foolish. Going to the gym when everyone else is sleeping looks foolish. Saying no to distractions looks foolish. Refusing to follow the crowd looks foolish, until it succeeds. Then suddenly everyone calls it courage. If you wait until people understand your vision, you'll never begin. Every great achievement starts with someone willing to be misunderstood. History is filled with people who were laughed at before they were admired. The difference is, they didn't stop simply because people doubted them. They understood something the Stoics taught centuries ago. Your responsibility is not to control opinions. Your responsibility is to live according to your principles. Imagine carrying a mirror everywhere you go. Every few seconds you stop to check whether people are smiling at your reflection. Eventually, you become so obsessed with the mirror that you stop paying attention to the road ahead. You trip, you stumble, you miss opportunities. That mirror is approval. Every moment you spend looking into it is a moment you're not moving toward your purpose. The Stoics invite us to put the mirror away. Instead of asking, do they approve of me, ask, do I approve of my own actions? Instead of wondering, what will people think? Does this align with my values? Instead of chasing admiration, earn your own respect. Because there is a profound difference between reputation and character. Reputation lives in other people's minds. Character lives within your own. Reputation changes with gossip. Character changes with choices. Reputation is borrowed. Character is built. One can disappear overnight. The other stays with you for life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself repeatedly that fame is temporary. The people praising you today will eventually be forgotten themselves. The crowds cheering your name today will one day cheer someone else. Why build your happiness on something so fragile? The Stoic path is different. Do the right thing, even when nobody notices. Keep your promises, even when no one is watching. Remain disciplined, even when nobody applauds. Because the greatest reward is becoming someone you respect when you're completely alone. The day you stop needing permission to be yourself, the day you stop begging the world for validation, the day you stop chasing approval, is the day your real life begins. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will support you. Not everyone will believe in you. And that's perfectly fine, because your purpose was never to convince everyone. It was to become the person you were created to be. The Stoics knew that true freedom begins where the need for approval ends. And perhaps the greatest victory you'll ever achieve is learning to clap for yourself long before the world does. What if I told you that failure has never been your biggest enemy? Most people would disagree. They spend their entire lives trying to avoid mistakes. They avoid difficult conversations because they might say the wrong thing. They avoid starting businesses because they might lose money. They avoid asking someone out because they might hear the word no. They avoid chasing ambitious goals because they might fail. And in trying so hard to avoid failure, they unknowingly create something far worse. A life filled with regret. The Stoics believed that failure itself isn't painful. The fear of failure is. It is fear that keeps dreams locked inside notebooks. It is fear that convinces talented people to settle for average lives. It is fear that whispers, wait until you're ready. But here's the truth. You'll never feel completely ready. No great achievement has ever begun with certainty. Every inventor doubted themselves. Every athlete lost competitions. Every entrepreneur made costly mistakes. Every leader faced rejection. Failure is not evidence that you're incapable. It is evidence that you're trying. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These words have echoed through centuries because they reveal one of life's greatest paradoxes. The obstacle you fear most often becomes the very thing that transforms you. Think about how iron becomes steel. It must endure intense heat. It must be struck repeatedly. It must survive pressure that would destroy weaker materials. Without the fire, there is no strength. Without resistance, there is no growth. Human beings are no different. Comfort rarely changes anyone. Adversity does. Many people look at successful individuals and imagine they were somehow different from the beginning. They assume confidence came first. They assume courage appeared naturally. They assume success arrived smoothly. But they never see the countless failures hidden beneath the surface. The speeches no one applauded. The businesses that collapsed. The books that were rejected. The auditions that ended in disappointment. The lonely nights filled with doubt. Success has always worn failure as its foundation. The Stoics understood this because they didn't measure life by victories. They measured it by virtue. To them, success wasn't becoming famous. Success wasn't becoming wealthy. Success wasn't avoiding mistakes. Success was acting courageously despite uncertainty. Imagine an archer preparing to shoot an arrow. He carefully chooses the bow. He practices his technique. He studies the wind. He steadies his breathing. Finally, he releases the arrow. At that moment, the outcome is no longer his. The wind may shift. The target may move. Unexpected circumstances may interfere. The Stoics believed life works exactly the same way. Your responsibility is to prepare, to give your best effort, to act with integrity. The result belongs to fate. How much unnecessary suffering would disappear if we truly understood this? Instead of obsessing over results, we would focus on effort. Instead of fearing failure, we would value growth. Instead of demanding certainty, we would embrace progress. Epictetus taught that we should concern ourselves only with what lies within our control. Your effort is within your control. Your discipline is within your control. Your attitude is within your control. But the outcome, never completely. That's why worrying about failure is such a waste of energy. You're trying to predict something that hasn't happened. You're allowing an imaginary future to steal today's courage. How many opportunities have slipped away because you imagined the worst? How many times have you quit before you even started? The human mind has an incredible talent for creating disasters that never happen. It invents embarrassing scenarios. It predicts humiliation. It imagines rejection. And then it convinces you those fantasies are reality. The Stoics challenged these thoughts. Whenever fear appeared, they asked themselves a simple question. Is this actually happening? Or is it only happening in my mind? Most of the time, the answer was obvious. Our greatest battles are often imaginary. Consider a child learning to walk. They fall again and again and again. Do they conclude they were born to crawl? Do they decide walking simply isn't for them? Of course not. They stand back up without shame, without overthinking, without doubting their worth. Somewhere along the way, adults forget this lesson. One mistake becomes an identity. One rejection becomes proof they're not enough. One setback convinces them to stop trying. But failure doesn't define you. Your response to failure does. Seneca once observed, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Every challenge leaves you with a choice. You can let it harden your heart or strengthen your character. You can allow it to destroy your confidence or build your resilience. The event itself doesn't decide. You do. Imagine looking back on your life decades from now. Which will hurt more? The failures you experienced or the dreams you never pursued because you were afraid to fail? Most people don't regret trying. They regret waiting for confidence, waiting for permission, waiting for certainty, waiting until the timing felt perfect, but perfection never arrives. The Stoics remind us that action is always better than hesitation. Progress is always better than paralysis. Movement is always better than standing still, because every attempt teaches you something. Every mistake sharpens your judgment. Every setback prepares you for a greater opportunity. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. So stop asking, what if I fail? Instead ask, what kind of person will I become by having the courage to try? That question changes everything, because in the Stoic view, the greatest victory isn't avoiding failure. The greatest victory is becoming someone whom failure can no longer intimidate. When you stop fearing failure, you stop limiting your life. You begin taking bold action. You begin trusting yourself. And that's when the impossible starts becoming possible. Have you ever noticed how exhausting life becomes when you try to control things that were never yours to control? You replay conversations in your head, wishing you had said something different. You worry about the future as if anxiety could somehow prepare you for it. You try to predict every possible outcome, hoping that if you think long enough, you'll finally feel safe. But the opposite happens. The more you try to control everything, the more powerless you feel. This is one of the greatest paradoxes of life. The harder you grip the world, the faster peace slips through your fingers. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. In fact, one simple idea became the foundation of their philosophy. They called it the dichotomy of control. Epictetus explained it with remarkable simplicity. Some things are up to us and some things are not. At first, those words seem obvious, but if you truly lived by them, your entire life would change. Think about yesterday. How much time did you spend worrying about things outside your control? Someone else's opinion? The economy, the weather, your past mistakes, a delayed opportunity, a rude stranger, the actions of people who don't even think about you. Now ask yourself, did your worrying change any of it? Probably not, yet it stole something far more valuable, your peace. Most people wake up every morning carrying invisible burdens. They carry yesterday's regrets, tomorrow's fears, other people's expectations, problems that haven't even happened yet. Then they wonder why they feel mentally exhausted before the day has truly begun. Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. Inside it are rocks. Each rock represents something you cannot control. One rock is your past, another is another person's opinion, another is fear of the future, another is the need for certainty. The suitcase becomes heavier every day, until eventually, you can barely move. Now imagine someone walks up to you and says, you know, you can put the suitcase down. That's what Stoicism offers. Not an easier life, a lighter one. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire plagued by war, disease, betrayal, and political corruption. He could not control invading armies. He could not stop people from lying. He could not prevent death. Yet despite carrying responsibilities greater than most of us can imagine, he remained remarkably composed. Why? Because he refused to waste energy on what reality refused to give him. Instead, he focused on the only territory he truly owned, his own mind. He understood that every moment spent complaining about reality was a moment stolen from improving himself. There is incredible freedom in accepting this truth. You cannot control whether someone loves you, but you can control how you love others. You cannot control whether people will misunderstand you, but you can control whether you remain honest. You cannot control whether success comes quickly, but you can control whether you continue showing up. This shift changes everything. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, you begin asking, what can I do right now? Notice how empowering that question is. You'll change away from helplessness and back toward action. The Stoics believe that emotional suffering often comes from resisting reality. Reality says it rained, your mind says it shouldn't have rained. Reality says they left, your mind says they should have stayed. Reality says you failed, your mind says, I should never fail. Notice the word that keeps appearing, should. Much of our pain comes from arguing with what has already happened, but reality never loses an argument. No matter how strongly you wish the past were different, it remains unchanged. No matter how desperately you demand certainty, the future stays uncertain. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means seeing life clearly before deciding how to respond. Imagine you're standing in the middle of the ocean. A wave begins to rise. You have two choices. You can scream at the wave, demand that it disappear, fight it with your bare hands, or you can learn to ride it. The wave represents life. It doesn't care about your expectations. It arrives when it arrives. The Stoics became masters at riding the waves, not because they were fearless, but because stop wasting energy trying to stop the tide. This doesn't mean becoming passive, quite the opposite. Stoicism demands action, but only where action matters. Work hard, speak honestly, train your body, strengthen your mind, keep your promises, develop discipline, love deeply, forgive quickly. These things belong to you. Everything else must be released. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about that for a moment. How many sleepless nights have been caused by things that never actually happened? How many arguments took place entirely inside your head? How many worst-case scenarios disappeared the moment real life unfolded? The mind is an incredible storyteller, but not every story deserves your belief. The Stoics trained themselves to return again and again to the present moment. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Today, because today is where your power exists. Today is where your choices matter. Today is where your character is formed. You don't need control over the entire future. You only need control over your next decision, and then the one after that. One calm decision. One disciplined action, one honest conversation, one courageous step. That's how great lives are built. Not by controlling everything, but by mastering the little that truly belongs to you. So the next time life feels overwhelming, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself one simple question. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, give it your full effort. If the answer is no, have the courage to let it go. Because the moment you stop trying to control the uncontrollable is the moment you finally begin to control yourself. And according to the Stoics, that is the only victory that truly matters. There is a strange habit that quietly steals our peace. It begins with the disagreement. Someone misunderstands you. Someone challenges your opinion. Someone says something unfair, and almost instantly, your mind prepares for battle. You begin collecting evidence. You rehearse the perfect comeback. You imagine proving them wrong. You convince yourself that if only they understood your point, everything would be fine. But here's the question the Stoics would ask. What exactly are you trying to win? Because not every victory is worth the price you pay for it. You can win an argument and lose your peace. You can prove someone wrong and damage a relationship. You can have the final word and still feel empty afterward. The ego loves victory, but wisdom values tranquility. One of the greatest misconceptions about strength is that strong people always fight back. The Stoics believe the opposite. Real strength is knowing when a fight is unnecessary. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who performed the injury." Think about those words. When someone insults you, what do they expect? They expect anger. When someone shouts at you, what do they hope for? Another shout. When someone behaves with disrespect, they often expect you to meet them at the same level. But the moment you refuse, you break the cycle. Imagine throwing a ball against a wall. Every time it hits the wall, it bounces back. Now imagine throwing that same ball into an open field. It simply falls to the ground. No resistance, no conflict, no endless cycle. Most arguments survive because two egos keep throwing the ball back and forth. One person attacks, the other responds. Then comes another insult, another defense, another accusation. Hours pass, days pass, sometimes years pass. Neither person changes their mind. Neither person grows. They simply become more exhausted. The Stoics asked a simple question. Why waste your energy trying to convince someone who has already decided not to listen? This doesn't mean you should never defend yourself. There are moments when truth must be spoken. There are times when justice requires courage. But there is an enormous difference between speaking with purpose and arguing to satisfy your pride. Most arguments are not about discovering truth. They're about protecting identity. People rarely ask what's true. Instead, they ask, how can I prove I'm right? And those are two very different questions. Seneca once observed, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. How many conflicts could have been avoided if we had simply waited? Not forever. Just long enough for emotion to settle. Think about the last argument you had. How much of it was driven by reason, and how much was driven by emotion? When anger takes control, wisdom leaves the room. The louder the voice becomes, the quieter reason becomes. That's why the Stoics trained themselves to pause. Not because they were weak, because they understood that the first emotion is rarely the wisest response. Imagine someone throws mud at your clothes. Would your solution be to jump into the mud with them? Of course not. Yet emotionally, that's exactly what many people do. Someone becomes rude, so they become rude. Someone lies, so they lie. Someone spreads negativity, so they respond with even more negativity. Soon both people are covered in the very thing they hated. The Stoics refused to imitate bad behavior. They believed another person's lack of self-control should never become an excuse to lose your own. Your character should never be held hostage by someone else's actions, because the moment another person can control your emotions, they control you. Read that again. The moment someone can make you angry whenever they choose, they have power over your mind. And Stoicism is about reclaiming that power. Epictetus reminded his students, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That idea can be difficult to accept, because we naturally want to blame the other person. They made me angry. They made me lose control. They ruined my day. But did they, or did they simply present a situation, and your mind chose how to respond? This realization is uncomfortable, but it's also incredibly liberating, because if your reactions belong to you, then your peace belongs to you as well. You no longer have to wait for people to change before you can be calm. You don't need perfect co-workers. You don't need understanding relatives. You don't need strangers to become kinder. Your peace stops depending on the behavior of others. That is true emotional independence. Now imagine two kings. One rules an entire nation. The other rules only himself. Which one is more powerful? The Stoics would choose the second, because kingdoms can be conquered, wealth can disappear, power can be taken away. But the person who has mastered their own emotions possesses something no one can steal: self-command. And perhaps that is the greatest victory of all. The next time someone insults you, pause. The next time someone tries to provoke you, smile. The next time someone demands that you join them in anger, remember this: you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Sometimes walking away requires more courage than staying to fight. Because the Stoics understood a truth that our modern world often forgets. Winning every argument will never make you successful. It will never make you wise. It will never bring lasting happiness. But protecting your peace, choosing your battles carefully, and refusing to let your ego control your actions, that is how you truly win. Not by defeating another person, but by refusing to let conflict defeat you. There is one place where millions of people spend their lives, a place they can never change, a place they visit every single day: the past. Some return there to relive their greatest mistakes. Others revisit painful memories. Some replay embarrassing moments over and over again, wishing they had chosen different words. Others carry guilt so heavy that it follows them into every new opportunity. The tragedy isn't that the past happened. The tragedy is that many people never truly leave it. The Stoics believed that one of the greatest obstacles to peace is becoming emotionally attached to what no longer exists. Think about that. The past is gone. It no longer lives anywhere except inside your mind. Yet it still has the power to steal your happiness. Not because it is alive, but because you keep feeding it your attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Simple words, yet incredibly difficult to practice, because the human mind has a habit of looking backward. What if I had accepted that opportunity? What if I had stayed in that relationship? What if I had worked harder? What if I hadn't made that mistake? Those two words have trapped more people than failure itself. The mind creates an imaginary version of the past, one where everything worked out perfectly, one where every decision was correct, one where every opportunity was taken. But that version never existed. It is an illusion, a fantasy, and comparing reality to fantasy will always create suffering. Imagine driving a car while staring only into the rearview mirror. At first you might stay on the road, but eventually you'll crash, not because the road was dangerous, but because your attention was facing the wrong direction. Life works exactly the same way. You cannot move confidently into the future while constantly staring at yesterday. Every minute spent replaying the past is a minute stolen from building your future. That doesn't mean the past has no value, it does. But only as a teacher, never as a prison. The Stoics believed every mistake carries a lesson, every disappointment contains wisdom, every failure leaves behind experience. The problem begins when we keep reliving the pain without learning the lesson. It's like reading the same chapter of a book every day and expecting the story to move forward. It never will. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Notice how true that is when it comes to regret. The event may have lasted 5 minutes, but the mind replays it for 5 years. A conversation, a breakup, a failure, a missed opportunity. Each replay adds another layer of unnecessary suffering. The event ends, but the imagination keeps it alive. Now consider this. The person you were 5 years ago is not the person reading these words today. You've learned. You've grown. You've survived things you once believed would destroy you. You've gained wisdom through experience. So why continue judging your past self using the knowledge you have today? Of course you would make better decisions now. You've changed. That's what growth is. Imagine criticizing a child for not knowing how to read before they were taught the alphabet. It wouldn't make sense. Yet many adults do something very similar. They condemn the younger version of themselves for lacking the wisdom they hadn't yet earned. Be compassionate with your former self. That person was doing the best they could with the understanding they had at the time. Without those mistakes, you wouldn't possess today's insight. Without those failures, you wouldn't have today's resilience. Without those painful experiences, you wouldn't appreciate today's strength. The Stoics never expected perfection. They expected progress. And progress requires mistakes. Think about an archer learning to shoot. Do they hit the center of the target every time? Of course not. Every missed shot teaches something. Adjust your stance. Steady your breathing. Aim more carefully. Without missing, there is improvement. Life is so different. Your mistakes are not evidence that you are broken. They are evidence that you are learning, but only if you allow them to teach you. Many people confuse guilt with responsibility. Guilt keeps you chained to yesterday. Responsibility moves you toward tomorrow. Guilt says, "I am my mistakes." Responsibility says, "I made mistakes, and now I will become better." Those are completely different identities. One destroys you, the other transforms you. Epictetus reminded his students that what matters isn't what happened, it's how you choose to respond now. Notice that word, now. Not yesterday, not last year, now. Because this present moment is the only place where change is possible. You cannot rewrite your past, but you can rewrite the meaning you give it. You can decide that your failures became your greatest teachers. You can decide that your heartbreak made you wiser. You can decide that your losses revealed your true strength. The facts remain the same, but your interpretation changes everything. Perhaps the greatest lie regret ever tells us is this: if only I could go back. But what if you didn't need to? What if the life you're searching for isn't behind you, but ahead of you? What if everything you've been through was preparing you for what comes next? The Stoics believe that nature never wastes experience. Nothing you've endured is meaningless. Every challenge has shaped your character. Every disappointment has strengthened your perspective. Every setback has prepared you for responsibilities you couldn't have carried before. So stop carrying yesterday like it's a punishment. Carry it like it's a lesson. Let it remind you how far you've come, not how far you fell. Because the goal isn't to erase your past. The goal is to stop allowing it to control your future. When you finally release yesterday, you create space for today. And today is where your power lives. Today is where your discipline matters. Today is where your decisions shape tomorrow. The past has already had its turn. Now it's time to give the present your full attention, because you cannot win the life ahead of you if you're still fighting battles that ended years ago. The Stoics knew this, and that's why they refused to live in yesterday. They learned from it, then they let it go. And perhaps that's exactly what you need to do next. There is one addiction that almost nobody talks about. It doesn't come in a bottle. It isn't sold on the streets. It doesn't look dangerous. In fact, society encourages it. It's called comfort. Comfort whispers. Stay in bed a little longer. Don't take that risk. Avoid that difficult conversation. Wait until you feel motivated. You'll start tomorrow. It speaks so gently that most people mistake it for common sense. But the Stoics saw comfort for what it often becomes, a silent prison. The strange thing about comfort is that it feels good in the moment, yet over time it slowly weakens you. Imagine a sword that is never used. At first it still looks sharp, but year after year it begins to rust. Eventually it becomes too dull to serve its purpose. Human character works the same way. Without challenge, discipline fades. Without resistance, strength disappears. Without discomfort, growth becomes impossible. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. Despite being emperor of Rome, surrounded by unimaginable luxury, he constantly reminded himself that comfort should never become his master. He slept simply, he trained his mind daily, He welcomed responsibility instead of running from it. Because he knew that luxury could weaken a person just as easily as hardship could strengthen one. Today, comfort has become easier to find than ever before. Food arrives at the push of a button. Entertainment never ends. Distractions are carried in our pockets. We can spend an entire day scrolling through other people's lives without improving our own. Hours disappear. Dreams are postponed. Potential quietly fades away. Not because we lack ability, but because comfort convinces us we have more time. Think about how many promises you've made to yourself. I'll start exercising next week. I'll begin writing tomorrow. I'll study later tonight. I'll chase my dream when life becomes less busy. Days become weeks. Weeks become years. One day you wake up wondering where the time went. Seneca warned us about this. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Those words are more relevant today than ever. The greatest thief of life isn't always failure. Sometimes it's comfort, because comfort doesn't destroy you overnight. It does something far more dangerous. It makes you slowly settle for less than you're capable of becoming. The Stoics practiced something remarkable called voluntary discomfort. From time to time, they intentionally chose hardship. They slept on hard beds. They ate simple meals. They walked instead of riding. They exposed themselves to cold weather, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they wanted to prove something to themselves, that they could survive without luxury, that happiness wasn't dependent on comfort, that strength comes from self-control. Imagine deliberately choosing the harder path when the easier one is available. Most people would call that foolish. The Stoics called it training. Think about an athlete preparing for a championship. Do they avoid difficult workouts? Do they only train when they feel comfortable? Of course not. They understand that every drop of sweat is preparing them for the moment that truly matters. Life demands the same preparation. Every early morning builds discipline. Every difficult conversation builds courage. Every temptation you resist strengthens your self-control. Every challenge you willingly face prepares you for challenges you never saw coming. Comfort tells you to avoid pain. Wisdom tells you that some pain is necessary. The pain of discipline, or the pain of regret, the pain of growth, or the pain of staying the same. One of those pains lasts for a moment, the other can last a lifetime. Which will you choose? There is another reason the Stoics embraced discomfort, because discomfort reveals your true character. Anyone can remain calm when life is easy. Anyone can be patient when nothing goes wrong. Anyone can be kind when everyone treats them well. But what happens when life becomes difficult? When you're criticized, when you're rejected, when you lose something important, when your plans collapse? That's when character is revealed, not created, revealed. Pressure doesn't build who you are, it exposes who you've become. Imagine two houses standing side by side. One was built quickly, with weak materials. The other was built slowly, with a solid foundation. Then a storm arrives. The storm doesn't choose which house to destroy. It simply reveals which one was prepared. Life storms work exactly the same way. The question isn't whether hardship will come, it will. The question is whether you're becoming the kind of person who can stand through it. That preparation begins long before the storm arrives. It begins in the small decisions nobody else sees. Choosing discipline over convenience, choosing growth over comfort, choosing purpose over pleasure every single day. Epictetus reminded his students, no great thing is created suddenly. Strength is built gradually, one difficult morning, one disciplined decision, one uncomfortable action at a time. You don't wake up one day mentally strong. You become mentally strong by repeatedly doing what weaker versions of yourself avoided. That's why comfort is so dangerous. It promises peace, but often delivers weakness. Discomfort promises difficulty, but often delivers freedom. Because every time you overcome something difficult, your confidence grows. Not the confidence that comes from compliments, the confidence that comes from evidence. Evidence that you can endure, evidence that you can adapt, evidence that you are stronger than yesterday. And that kind of confidence cannot be taken away. So ask yourself honestly, what comfort is quietly stealing your potential? Is it procrastination? Is it endless entertainment? Is it the fear of difficult conversations? Is it avoiding responsibility? Whatever it is, don't let comfort become your identity. Use it when necessary, but never depend on it. Because the Stoics understood a truth that many people spend their entire lives avoiding. A comfortable life does not create a strong person. A disciplined life does. The more willing you become to embrace temporary discomfort, the less power life has to make you suffer. And that is one of the greatest victories you will ever achieve. There is a quiet trap that catches even the most ambitious people. It doesn't look dangerous. In fact, it often disguises itself as success. It is the desire to be recognized, to be noticed, to be admired, to hear your name spoken with praise. At first, there's nothing wrong with wanting your hard work to be appreciated. Recognition can be encouraging. It can remind us that our efforts matter. But the moment recognition becomes the reason you work, you become its prisoner. The Stoics warned against building your happiness on something so unstable, because recognition is like the weather. One day the sky is clear, the next day a storm arrives. Today people celebrate you. Tomorrow they've already moved on to someone else. Think about how quickly the world forgets. Yesterday's headlines become today's history. Last year's heroes are replaced by new faces. The internet praises someone in the morning and criticizes them before the day is over. If your peace depends on public attention, then your peace will disappear as quickly as the applause. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than anyone. As Emperor of Rome, he possessed more fame than almost anyone alive. His name was known across continents. His decisions shaped millions of lives. Yet despite all of that, he constantly reminded himself that fame was temporary. He wrote, "All is ephemeral, both memory and the object of memory." Think about those words. Not only will people eventually forget what you did, one day, even the people who remembered you will also be forgotten. It's a humbling thought, but it's also incredibly freeing. Because if fame is temporary, then why sacrifice your peace trying to obtain it? Imagine a musician standing on stage. The crowd cheers wildly. Thousands of voices applaud. The performance ends. The lights go out. Everyone goes home. The applause disappears into silence. Now imagine another musician. No audience, no cameras, no recognition. Yet every morning they continue practicing. Not because someone is watching, because excellence has become part of who they are. Which person is more likely to keep improving? The second one, because their motivation comes from within, not from outside. The Stoics believed this was the only kind of motivation that lasts. External rewards fade. Internal purpose endures. Ask yourself honestly, why do you do what you do? Do you work hard because you love becoming better, or because you're waiting for someone to notice? Do you chase your goals because they matter to you, or because you hope they'll finally prove your worth? There is a huge difference. One path leads to freedom. The other leads to endless disappointment. Because there will always be moments when nobody notices your effort. The days you wake up early while everyone else is sleeping. The hours you spend studying after work. The workouts nobody applauds. The sacrifices no one understands. The quiet decisions to stay disciplined. Those moments build your future, but they rarely receive recognition. And that's exactly why they're valuable. Anyone can work hard when everyone is watching. Very few people continue when nobody is paying attention. That is where character is forged. Seneca once wrote, "The reward of a good deed is having done it." At first that sounds almost too simple, but hidden inside those words is a profound truth. Imagine planting a tree. Would you dig it up every week just to check if it's growing? Of course not. You water it, you protect it, you remain patient. Growth happens quietly. Success works the same way. Many people become discouraged because they don't see immediate results. They quit too early, not because they lack potential, but because they expected instant recognition. The Stoics understood that meaningful work often happens in silence. The strongest foundations are built underground. No one admires the roots of a tree, yet without them, the tree cannot stand. Your discipline is like those roots. Invisible, quiet, uncelebrated, but absolutely essential. The world often celebrates the outcome. Stoicism celebrates the process. People admire the athlete holding the trophy. They rarely think about the thousands of mornings spent training before sunrise. People admire the successful entrepreneur. They rarely see the years of uncertainty, rejection, and sacrifice. People admire wisdom. They rarely appreciate the years of solitude required to gain it. The visible victory is only the tip of the iceberg. The real achievement happened long before anyone noticed. Imagine living a life where your effort never depended on applause, where compliments didn't inflate your ego, where criticism didn't destroy your confidence, where your work remained consistent regardless of who was watching. That is real freedom, because when your identity is built on recognition, you stop growing the moment the attention disappears. But when your identity is built on discipline, you continue moving forward whether the world notices or not. Epictetus taught that if you seek external rewards, you give away your independence. Think about how true that is. If your happiness depends on praise, then anyone can take your happiness away simply by withholding it. If your confidence depends on likes and approval, then strangers control your emotions. But if your satisfaction comes from knowing you gave your best, no one can steal that from you. The world may overlook your efforts. People may underestimate you. Your progress may go unnoticed for years. Keep working anyway, because the greatest victories are often invisible long before they become obvious. One day, people may admire the life you've built. They'll call you lucky. They'll say you were gifted. They'll wonder how you became so disciplined. But But only you will know the truth. It wasn't luck, it wasn't talent alone. It was the thousands of moments when you kept going, even when nobody was watching, even when nobody believed in you, even when nobody applauded. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson Stoicism offers. Do not work for recognition. Work for excellence. Recognition may come, it may not. Either way, character continues to grow, because the strongest people aren't driven by applause. They are driven by purpose, and purpose will always outlast popularity. After everything we've discussed, you might begin to wonder, does Stoicism teach us not to care about anything? Should we stop caring about people, about success, about our dreams, about life itself? The answer is no. In fact, Stoicism doesn't tell you to care less, it teaches you to care better, because the quality of your life depends on what you choose to care about. Most people spend their lives caring deeply about things they can lose. Money, status, popularity, beauty, recognition, power. These things are not evil, but they are temporary. Money can disappear overnight. Beauty changes with time. Fame fades. Power shifts. Relationships change. Health can be taken from us in an instant. If your identity is built on things that can be lost, then your peace will always be fragile. The Stoics built their lives on something different, something that no one could steal: character. Marcus Aurelius believed that your character is the only possession that truly belongs to you, not your wealth, not your job, not your reputation, only your character. Think about that for a moment. Someone can steal your wallet, they cannot steal your integrity. Someone can destroy your reputation with lies, they cannot destroy your honesty. Someone can take away your position, they cannot take away your wisdom. Everything external is borrowed, character is earned, and what you earn within yourself remains yours forever. Imagine Tumin is wealthy. He owns expensive cars. He lives in a beautiful home. People admire his success. But behind closed doors, arrogant, selfish, he lies whenever it benefits him. He betrays people to protect his image. The second man owns very little. His clothes are simple. His house is modest. Few people know his name, but he keeps his promises. He treats people with respect. He remains calm under pressure. He tells the truth even when it costs him. Which of these men is truly successful? Modern society often chooses the first. The Stoics would always choose the second, because success without character is only decoration. Sooner or later, life removes the decoration. What remains is who you really are. Seneca once wrote, "A good character is the only guarantee of everlasting, carefree happiness." Notice that he didn't say wealth, he didn't say fame, he didn't say influence, he said character. Because character creates something that money cannot buy. Self-respect. There is a unique kind of confidence that comes from knowing you've lived honestly. You don't have to remember your lies. You don't fear being exposed. You don't need to pretend to be someone else. You sleep peacefully because your conscience is clear. That peace is priceless. Unfortunately, many people sacrifice their character one small decision at a time, a lie to avoid embarrassment, a promise they never intended to keep, a shortcut that compromises their values, a betrayal in exchange for temporary success. Each decision seems insignificant until one day, they no longer recognize the person staring back at them in the mirror. Character isn't destroyed all at once, it's abandoned little by little. The same is true in the opposite direction. Great character isn't built through one heroic act. It's built through thousands of ordinary decisions. Choosing honesty when lying would be easier. Choosing discipline when comfort calls your name. Choosing forgiveness when revenge feels satisfying. Choosing humility when your ego demands attention. Each decision places another brick in the foundation of your life. Eventually, that foundation becomes unshakable. The Stoics believed there were 4 virtues that should guide every human being. Wisdom, the ability to see reality clearly, to think before acting, to learn continuously, to seek truth instead of comfort. Courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to do what is right despite fear. Speaking honestly, taking responsibility, standing alone if necessary. Justice, treating others fairly, keeping your word, acting with integrity even when no one is watching, because your values should not depend on your audience. And finally, temperance, the art of self-control, mastering your desires instead of becoming their servant, controlling your anger, your impulses, your cravings, your ego. These 4 virtues formed the heart of Stoicism, not because they made life easier, but because they made people stronger. Imagine a mighty lighthouse standing on the edge of a violent sea. Waves crash against it, storms surround it, the wind never stops blowing. Yet the lighthouse remains exactly where it was built. Why? Because its strength comes from its foundation. Your character is that foundation. Life will bring storms, criticism, failure, loss, disappointment, temptation, pain. Those things are unavoidable. But whether they knock you down depends on what your life is built upon. If it's built on approval, criticism will destroy you. If it's built on wealth, loss will destroy you. If it's built on popularity, rejection will destroy you. But if it's built on character, nothing outside of you can truly defeat you. This is why the Stoics cared so deeply about becoming good rather than simply appearing successful. Because appearances fool the world. Character never fools reality. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every day, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Those words challenge us even today. Stop talking about discipline. Practice it. Stop admiring courage. Live it. Stop chasing respect. Become respectable. Stop trying to look successful. Become someone worthy of success. The world spends enormous energy polishing appearances. The Stoics spent their energy strengthening the soul, and history has remembered them for it. One day, your possessions will belong to someone else. Your titles will be forgotten. Your achievements will become history. But every decision you made, every act of courage, every moment of honesty, every kindness shown to another person will have shaped the person you became. That is your real legacy, not what you owned, but who you were. So, if you're going to care deeply about something, care about becoming the kind of person who remains honest when lying is easier, calm when chaos surrounds you, disciplined when temptation appears, kind when bitterness would be understandable, strong when life becomes difficult. Because in the end, the greatest victory is not earning the world's admiration, it is earning your own respect. And according to the Stoics, that is a victory no one can ever take away. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, and for the first time in years, your mind is quiet. You're no longer worried about whether people approve of you. You're no longer replaying yesterday's mistakes. You're no longer afraid of failing. You're no longer exhausted from trying to control things that were never yours to control. You simply wake up, take a deep breath, and begin your day with peace. For many people, that sounds impossible, not because peace doesn't exist, but because they've spent so much of their lives carrying emotional weight that they no longer remember what freedom feels like. The Stoics believed that the greatest chains are invisible. No one can see them, yet millions wear them every day. The chain of comparison, the chain of resentment, the chain of fear, the chain of regret, the chain of approval, the chain of comfort. These chains don't lock your body, they imprison your mind. And here's the painful truth. Most of those chains were never placed on you by other people. You placed them on yourself. Every time you believed you had to impress everyone, every time you refused to forgive yourself, every time you let criticism define your worth, every time you postponed your dreams because you feared failure, every time you allowed someone else's opinion to become louder than your own conscience, little by little, the chains became heavier, until you forgot that you had the power to remove them. This is where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes liberation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say happiness depends on having the perfect job. He didn't say it depends on becoming rich. He didn't say it depends on finding perfect people. He said it begins within. That is both a challenge and a gift, because if your peace comes from within, then no one outside of you has the authority to take it away. Think about a mountain. Storms come and go, rain falls. Snow covers the peaks, the wind crashes against its cliffs. But the mountain remains. It doesn't argue with the storm, it doesn't complain about the weather, it simply stands, strong, patient, unshaken. That is the image the Stoics wanted us to become. Not emotionless, not cold, simply steady. The world today constantly encourages the opposite. React immediately, take everything personally. Compare yourself to everyone, chase attention, seek validation, always want more, never feel satisfied. The result, people become successful, yet remain restless. They become famous, yet remain insecure. They become wealthy, yet remain empty, because they spent years improving their circumstances while neglecting themselves. The Stoics reversed the order. They improved themselves first and trusted life to unfold afterward. Imagine carrying a glass of water. At first it feels light, but hold it for an hour, your arm begins to ache. Hold it all day, and eventually you can barely lift it. The weight never changed, only the amount of time you carried it. Your worries are exactly the same. The longer you hold them, the heavier they become. The Stoics invite you to put the glass down. Not forever, just long enough to remember that life is happening right now. Not inside your fears, not inside your memories. Right here, in this moment, this breath, this decision, this opportunity. The present moment is the only place where life can actually be lived. Yesterday is memory, tomorrow is possibility. Today is reality, and reality deserves your full attention. Perhaps you've been waiting for confidence before taking action. Maybe you've been waiting for permission, waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting until fear disappears. But what if confidence comes after action, not before it? What if courage isn't the absence of fear, but movement despite fear? The Stoics didn't wait until life became easier. They became stronger. That's the difference. Anyone can feel motivated when everything is going well. The Stoic remains disciplined when everything is falling apart. Anyone can stay calm on a sunny day. The Stoic remains calm during the storm. Anyone can be kind when life is fair. The Stoic chooses kindness even after being treated unfairly. That is true strength, and that strength is available to every single person willing to train their mind. Throughout this journey, we've uncovered 10 powerful lessons. Stop caring about people's opinions. Stop chasing approval. Stop fearing failure. Stop trying to control everything. Stop fighting every battle. Stop living in the past. Stop worshipping comfort. Stop seeking recognition. Care deeply about your character. And finally, learn the freedom of letting go. Because that's what this entire philosophy has been leading toward. Not indifference, freedom. Freedom from unnecessary suffering. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from ego. Freedom from fear. Freedom from becoming a prisoner of circumstances. When you stop caring about what doesn't matter, you finally have the strength to care about what does. Your purpose, your discipline, your relationships, your integrity, your peace. One day, you will look back on your life. You won't remember every compliment. You won't remember every criticism. You won't remember how many people approved of you. But you will remember the person you became, the courage you showed, the discipline you practiced, the peace you protected, the values you refused to compromise. That is the legacy Stoicism asks us to build, not a life that impresses the world, a life that allows you to look in the mirror and quietly say, I remain true to myself, because in the end, winning isn't having more money than everyone else. Winning isn't becoming more famous. Winning isn't proving your critics wrong. Winning is waking up every morning with a peaceful mind, living according to your values, and going to sleep each night knowing that no matter what happened, the world never took control of your soul. That is the greatest victory a human being can ever achieve.